What does it mean to be a part of a scene? For this little thought experiment to work, put yourself back in the mid-80s, the pre-internet age, if you can even imagine or remember it. So being a part of a scene means a band can get stuck in a box that they don't necessarily want to find themselves in. It means they can get lumped together with some other bands as part of a location, a genre, maybe even a specific local sound. And it means if they want to change their sound, well, there goes their fan base. But these aren't necessarily bad things. When you ask your friend, hey, what's that band sound like that's playing on Friday? They'll be able to say, well, they sound like X with a bit of influences from XX. And you'll be saying to yourself, well, I like both of those bands. Maybe I'll go to the show too. So you pay the cover, enjoy the show, and head out the next day to buy the band's new record. You're a fan now. When enough people do this, bands get big. The more people see them, the bigger the fan base grows, the more records sold, the bigger the other bands are that they play with, the more lucrative the recording contracts become. It's all part of one big network that starts with just two things: location and genre. And, talent too, of course, but that should be obvious. Now, this is certainly not how all bands get big, but I would say this kind of grassroots growth is a classic paradigm. Putting aside location for a moment, let's talk about genre. Yes, playing a specific genre might pigeonhole a band, but then it also becomes obvious where the network growth process should begin, playing with similar, like-minded bands. At this early phase, a show is generally where other people hear the songs for the first time. It's the inauguration into the scene. So what happens when a band is talented but they can't decide on the genre? Well, you get the subject of today's video, No Man's Land. Let's start by taking a look around their lone 7-inch single. So the artwork, I really like it. I think it grabs your attention right away, and you sort of have these abstract shapes that when you look a bit closer, you start to realize, oh, maybe they're instruments actually. The bottom right-hand corner, you have what looks to be a guitar to tip you off. And I appreciate that we have the singer on the front cover to kind of connect with right away. One thing that I find to be a bit curious is that there's a grammatical mistake in the name. It should be No Man '(S) Land, right? On the back, we get a bit more context for those kind of abstract shapes that we saw. They are indeed instruments. We have all 4 band members here, and we see that Splash is then CW, or combined with, Building a Road. And we get a credit for the artist, sleeve by Stuart Turnbull. I tried looking him up, but I couldn't really find anything else by him, or perhaps his name just wasn't unique enough, making him a bit difficult to find. What's really cool about the artwork is that on the front, we can see that it's really paint on a canvas. We can see the texture of the canvas and the paint, or at least it's replicating that. So taking the record out of the sleeve, we have a producer credited, Pat Grogan, and we have the songwriters credited, Angel, Evans, Humphrey, and Angel. And on the B-side, it's the same people credited, kind of as you would expect. One thing of note is that the B-side isn't a B-side actually though, it's a double A-side. So what this kind of meant is that the band or the record label or somebody involved in calling the shots thought that both songs were really strong and that either could be the single. And that's also why on the sleeve you have combined with instead of BW or backed with. In the runoff, we have an etching that I think says a Porky Prime cut, and then the catalog number, FER 024A. And on the double A side, or B side, it says, Stick It In, Ox, from Wee Michael. And we see that it's FER 024B. And that's it. We don't get any information about the band members directly, what genre this is, anything like that. But we can kind of presume that the songwriters credited are also the ones depicted on the back sleeve. Alright, looks good. If a bit minimalistic, but more importantly, how's it sound? As I said in the introduction, the talent is certainly there. The songs are clean, polished, and they're catchy enough. And yet, at the same time, I don't really know what they're going for. There's almost no cohesion within the songs, and there's even less cohesion between the two songs. The first song, Splash, reminds me most of a band like Huey Lewis and the News, but perhaps with a bit more of a new wave flair. The second song, Building a Road, is kind of a blues rock tune, but also with a new wave flair. It's certainly grittier than the first, and I think I like it a bit better. Highlights for me on both of these tracks are the guitar work and the singing. I really like the vocal inflections, I think it adds a nice touch. But anyway, let's see what we can find out about this record. The first thing I always check out is Discogs. Here, however, we're not really offered a lot. Only 5 people report that they have it, and 3 people report that they want it. So it definitely falls into the realm of the obscure. Let's check out the record label. Now, I don't recognize any of these bands except for the Exploited and UV Pop, but both of those credits are just license deals. They didn't actually put out these records. But we can see by the catalog numbering that No Man's Land single was probably the label's last proper release during their lifetime. Since the release before it was from 1985, I think it's safe to say that this 7-inch is most likely from 85 or 86. So obviously, just searching for No Man's Land isn't going to bring up a lot of relevant hits, so we have to go off of something else and dig deeper. With the songwriters, their names are so common that it would be hard to start looking there. Other than the sleeve artist, the only full name we have credited on the release is Pat Grogan, the producer. So how about him? Wow, he was very active in the music scene all the way up until about 10 years ago. He was mostly behind the board, but here he was credited as a vocalist and a musician on another Future Earth release. Let's take a look at that. And now the band, BTP Folders. And hey, they put out a single on Future Earth as well. By taking a closer look at it, we can see that the label has a different address on this release than on the No Man's Land single, an address in Doncaster. As a side note, this address is at the top of the Future Earth Discogs page, but I frankly didn't notice the discrepancy until afterwards. So how about we search up No Man's Land in quotations with Doncaster. Just a few results down, we have the Sheffield Music Archive, and No Man's Land was credited as playing in Doncaster in 1986. This has to be the same band. So a quick Control F and we see, yeah, No Man's Land played Doncaster in February of 1986, and they played again in March. Now this page is only for shows in the town of Doncaster though, so maybe searching up the band will bring some other results. Okay, there's one more show in Sheffield in 1988, So this band was more active than their lone single would seem to suggest. So we've got the band, but where do we go from here? You think the band could have originally written their name with the correct grammar, with the apostrophe? Searching that brings up new results, all from 1985. So it seems like at some point in 86, they dropped the apostrophe from the name for some reason. But look, here, at the end of 1985, No Man's Land opened for the Confident Tricksters, and the Confident Tricksters opened up for No Man's Land just a couple of months later in the following year. This to me suggests a relationship between the bands. What about if we search up the Confident Tricksters? They have a Facebook page. This has to be the same band, based in Sheffield and Doncaster, celebrating their 30th anniversary. So here we have a history of the band, a history of their releases, and here at the end, they thank the people that have helped them over the years. Hey, here's Pat Grogan. And wait, Keith Angel. Do you think this could be one of the Angels credited on the No Man's Land release? So now with a first name to go with this very common last name, let's see what Discogs brings up. Okay, there's only one result, and he's in the group The Angel Brothers, who are releasing music in the 2000s. And here, look, David Angel. This has to be the other Angel. The only release that the brothers are credited with singing on is The Rag and Bone Men, The Fight Goes On. This record would be a prime candidate for this series, by the way. It hasn't been ripped anywhere I can find, only 6 people report having it, and it's pretty cheap. But look here, Adrian Evans. So, we have Angel, Evans, and Angel. The only person missing is Humphrey. But let's take a quick detour to check out Adrian Evans. It seems like he's also been quite active in bands over the past decades. But now I'm determined to find Humphrey. Who's Humphrey and what happened to him? I think our best bet is to look up the Angel Brothers. So there are quite a lot of links to their music and videos, but what about something from the band themselves? This Facebook page was created and abandoned, but here's a link to their website. And of course the website is down. But let's try the Wayback Machine over at archive.org. Okay, the website was archived numerous times over the past several years and was working up until last year. And hey, here are the Angel Brothers themselves, Dave and Keith. But the website, or at least the archived version of it, is pretty bare bones. So let's go back to the earliest archive from 2013. And here, the 2009 album features longtime associate Mick Humphrey. The mystery of the band members is solved. A jaunt back over to Discogs, and here he is credited on one of the songs from another Angel Brothers album. I mean, I suppose I could have figured it out by crawling through their releases, but this was much more fun. So, what can we gather from all of this? I'm going to piece together the band history as best I can through what I found and through my own deductive reasoning. So, please take the following claims with a grain of salt. The band was fairly active in 1985-86. At some point in either late 85 or early 86, they got a record deal with a decent local label and put out their single. The label ended up going bust pretty much right after. The band fizzled out after that, and they broke up, but not on bad terms. They got back together to play that 1988 reunion show, but other than that, they focused on other projects. Keith Angel stayed with music, more as a session musician and on the technical side of things, but the rest of the band members got 9-to-5s and kept music as a hobby. Nonetheless, they all remained friends and continued to collaborate over the years. I think that's really cool. Somehow being able to piece together this story and see that the band members' lives have continued to be entangled over the course of the past 35 years gives a really wholesome picture to it all and adds a personal dimension to it. Certainly much more personal than just this one record that you might find in a used bin for a couple of bucks. And that's No Man's Land. I'm really proud of the research that I did for this episode. It was certainly not easy, but each layer deeper I was able to dig, the more exciting the whole thing became. Anyway, that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.